Hey gang, I'm Danny Drummond, and I want to talk a little bit about road racing, and not the kind in your car where you're scratching off and peeling out and all this other stuff causing trouble. I'm talking about the kind you do when you put on your good running shoes and a running shirt, and get out there and join hundreds, thousands of people sometimes on a race. First one I did was the River Run, and that was in year 2000, I believe it was. And I did the River Run. And I think they had like 8,000 people at the time. They have twice that many now that do it. I haven't done it in several years. But anyhow, what I want to talk about to the newer runners. And newer runners, please, when you get to a race, most of the races have pace markers out there. There might look like a flag or a signer, and it's going to say 7 or an 8, 9, 10, whatever. And if you're going to do a 7-minute pace, of course, if you're doing a 7-minute mile, you know what these things are. So if you think you're going to do a 12-minute mile, right now I'm doing I'm 70 years old. Right now I'm doing about a 12 and a half minute mile. I've slowed way down over the years. Never have been fast. But so I'm doing about a 12 and a half minute mile. But let's just say you think you're going to do a 10-minute mile. So you need to find the pace marker and stand there, at the 10 or a little bit behind, something like that, and to where you're going to be running with all the other runners who plan on doing a 10-minute mile. I had an issue the other day. I ran at a run a month or so ago, the St. Patty's Day run in Jacksonville, Florida, at the Evergreen Cemetery. This was ran inside the cemetery. So the roads in the cemetery aren't real wide. So, I got the rigging. They did have pace markers, and the announcer, he says every few minutes, he's up there for 30 minutes, he's up there talking. Every few minutes he's, ladies and gentlemen, if you are going to be running at 8-minute mile, stand by the pace marker that says 8-minute mile. If you're going to be doing walking, then please move to the back of the crowd, because walkers are generally going to do a 20-minute mile. Something like that. If you're real fast, maybe an 18-minute mile. But anyhow, so I got to where I was, at the 12-minute mile. I was at the 12 mark. And when the race started, get up there's a big crowd, and it kind of all funnels through the start line. So we get to the start line. My official time starts. I set my Garmin watch, and I start. But in the first quarter mile, I must have had to go around 60 walkers. The next quarter mile, I must have had to go around 40 more walkers, So those of us, not just me too, so we're trying to get around, and I'm not fast, but I wanted to do this 12-and-a-half-minute mile. And so when having to go around all these walkers, it really messes up my time, and it did everybody else's. So please, walkers, more than happy to have you out there. Love to have the walkers. Come on out. It's a good way to get some exercise and get you out of bed, early in the morning, and get family activity. It's great, but please move a little bit further to the back of the line. I had another race I did last week, and they didn't have pace markers. It was a smaller race. It was here in Jacksonville. It was a Biscuits and Bubbles, I think. They didn't have pace markers, so I was looking around, and I was trying to decide where I needed to be, just looking at the age of people and everything. I did not realize how many walkers they were going to have there. I put up, I had where I was parked. I actually set my GoPro camera, and it's pointed at the start line. And so you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, the Biscuits and Bubbles in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, there were a lot of runners, and they were smart enough to get up front. Me doing a 12-and-a-half-minute mile, I didn't want to get that far up front. Yet still, once again, get up to the start, and it seemed like thousands of walkers I had to go around. Come on, there weren't but a few hundred people in the race. But I did finally get around them, and I've got to tell you the story. It worked. I finally got around them because for the first time in many, many years, I was age group champ for male, my age group. 70, 74, my age group, I was the champ for the men's age group. Of course, there were only 3 of us in that age group, and one of the guys, he had to stop every quarter mile and lean against a tree and smoke a cigarette. And the other guy, I think he was having problems with his walker. I think a wheel came off his walker. So I was ahead of them, but I was a champ. But I think I made my 12:36 miles. That's all I wanted to do. I was happy with it. And don't forget, this presentation was brought to you by Achy-Breaky running shoes. Achy-Breaky running shoes, designed by doctors for doctors. After all, who needs an expensive running shoe when you have a good orthopedic doctor and network? Achy-Breaky running shoes. They're not comfortable, but they're cheap. I'm going to tell you a real quick story here. And like I say, I think I did my first river run in the year 2000. And there in about 2020, or about 2004, 2005, I was working for a company called Cypress Truck Irons here in Jacksonville. Huge trucking company, 500 trucks. And we got together, and there were several runners. In fact, the guy that's my boss, he kind of got me started to do my first river run. But we decided, let's go ahead and see if we can get a company thing going and get all the runners and, get as many people as we can participating. And we probably got 6 or 8 people, and one of them was a guy. He was a little older than me, younger than I am now. But, he was and probably not in that great a shape, but we were looking for walkers too. We didn't care. We just wanted people to participate for Cypress Truck Irons. And so this guy, I won't mention his name, we'll just call him Ron Haig, all right? And so, after I was getting a little closer to the race, I saw him and I said, "You training for the river run?" So, yeah. Says, "My wife and I, we went out there and walked 6 miles last night. It took about 20 minutes. I said, well, again, I won't call his name. We'll just say, "Ron, did you check that mileage? Did you measure it or anything like that?" Well, no. I said, really, I doubt you did 6 miles in 20 minutes. So anyhow, I will say, at the end of it, this guy, Ron, he wound up was the second to the last finishing the river run. But by golly, he did it, and we were real proud of him for it. I went to the finish line and got my car over there, nearing to take him back over to our terminal where his car was. I was really kind of worried. I thought, this guy's going to die, and that's going to be my responsibility because I talked him into it. But anyhow, just once again, keep in mind the newer runners. I've gotten way off my track. Look at the pace markers. And if you have any questions, ask somebody. And whatever you do, get out and enjoy your race, have fun, and we'll see you next time. All right, I'm Danny Drummond. And just a reminder, this presentation has been brought to you by Achy-Breaky running shoes. Achy-Breaky running shoes, made by doctors for doctors. After all, who needs an expensive running shoe when you have a good orthopedic surgeon and network? Achy-Breaky running shoes. They're not comfortable, but they're cheap.